We do want to bring in right now former CIA officer and FBI Special Agent Tracy Walder, also a News Nation contributor. Tracy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Natasha.
And Tracy, I know you live in Dallas. Not only are you former CIA and FBI, you're an educator in that state. You are a mom. What is going through your mind as you are watching families stream out of the mall, some of them with their hands up, and the news that children are among the victims today?
So thank you for having me, Natasha. This is a very, very busy mall. It's off of one of our major freeways here in Dallas. It's about 20 minutes from me. It's all open air. And like we mentioned before, over 100 stores. There's a really large children's play area here. And a lot of folks come here during the weekend to congregate, let their kids play while they shop and while they eat. So it really would have been very heavily populated, quite frankly, with kids. My own daughter had an ear piercing appointment here a couple months ago, but we just didn't go. And so, this is obviously a highly easily accessible shopping center. And really, it is one of the sort of larger shopping center landmarks in North Texas.
I really do appreciate that context, and I'm struck by that new detail brought to us by Jorge Ventura in the last 20 minutes or so, that it was an officer who was responding to an unrelated call who heard the gunfire and neutralized the shooter here. What is your take on that?
I think, first of all, that's incredibly lucky. Police response time, Allen does have an excellent police department, and police response time there would have been extremely quick, especially because this is obviously a highly trafficked, highly populated place. However, I think the fact that response time was so quick absolutely saved lives because he was already in this vicinity. This was someone that reports are saying he had a long gun, some kind of an automatic gun. But also we have to think about how long people probably had to shelter in place in these stores. So yes, the response time was very quick and the officer did neutralize this person. However, people probably sheltered in place for quite some time. And I think that's obviously going to leave sort of a mental health mark, if you will, for quite some time.
How does the fact that the shooter was allegedly wearing a tactical vest when neutralized and their willingness to kill children here, how does that speak to premeditation and even potentially motive as they start to piece that together?
Yeah, I obviously don't know what a motive is right now. I'm clearly speculating on that. But clearly the fact that they had a tactical vest on and that they had a long gun with them, this was someone who was looking to inflict the maximum possible damage. And I would imagine that this is a person who knew that they were going to probably, die caught by cop, basically suicide by cop. And so I think this was a person who was trying to inflict the most amount of damage before they were neutralized. And that's why they wore that tactical vest. I think this is also someone, too, who's clearly watching the news and who is clearly seeing reports. I mean, we have seen reports over and over and over again of people wearing tactical gear to commit acts like this. And so I would imagine that that served as an inspiration for this person.
Okay. And witnesses nearby apparently thought it was construction at the time. Gunfire so often in these situations mistaken for fireworks or other sounds. As you're looking at this and as people are wondering if they can keep their families safe in these public spaces that should be, like churches and grocery stores and schools and malls, what do people need to keep in mind about keeping their families safe?
That is a really hard question, Natasha, because I'm just going to be very blunt with an answer. There's no way to keep yourself completely safe in a situation like this. As long as there is open and, in my opinion, rather free access to these kinds of weapons, coupled with some mental health issues, I think that this is always going to be problematic. Look, this mall is just 1 mile away from a gun range. And so I think, I'm not saying that the gun range is bad, but what I'm saying is this is a way of life. And the problem is that we have accepted this as a way of life, but we're not securing ourselves against this way of life. And there really is no way to protect yourself against it. This is an open air shopping center.
Yeah. And Tracy, I know you have such fluency with firearms and also a mind that is trained to assess threats. What do you do when you go to public spaces with your child?
That's a good question. Really what I do is I stop and really assess the entirety of the room, the entirety of the situation. And I know this might sound cliche, but one of the things I never do is I never actually turn my back to the door of a store. I always try to turn around. Another thing that I always do is when I'm going out to my car, I really try to get off that phone, because that really, really kind of narrows your focus against your surroundings. And that's going to be key in a situation like this, when really a split-second decision like being on your phone or not could actually save your life.
I appreciate that. And Tracy, I want to ask you one more question, because from some of the social media videos that we're seeing from this, 120 stores here. It is packed. It is a sunny day. It is in the afternoon on a Saturday before summer. And the amount of chaos that is going on in that situation, I think is hard to imagine, really. Also, the sound really ricochets off of buildings, and it's hard to tell where the threat is or what is going on. Any advice for people if they do find themselves in a situation where they can't quite figure out what is going on? Where do you even go? Where does one even run? Or is sheltering in place the thing to do?
I think in a situation like that, if you don't see the active threat and you don't know where the threat is coming from, the best thing to do is to either shelter in place or lock yourself inside of a room wherever you're located, because the problem with just fleeing and not knowing exactly where the threat is means that you could become a target.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.